there. The program continues now, and I said we do have a very special guest in the house. We're looking at the elections, looking at everything elections, this 2019 elections, specifically as it concerns women. There's been a lot of efforts going on from different quarters and in different quarters to increase the number of the percentage number of women in politics, and this has been going on for years and years and years. I do have here in the studio the president CEO Change Managers International Network, and also the coordinator of 100 Women Lobby, the 100 Women Lobby Group, with me here, Mrs. Felicia Yore Onibon. Good to have you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. You're welcome. You look really bright and green, like patriotic Nigerian. You're welcome once again. The elections are just the presidential elections and the National Assembly elections are just a few days away on Saturday, and this is Wednesday. Let's talk about something even different from women first of all. How would you rate INEC level of preparation for this the forthcoming elections?
Strange enough, as for INEC, I think INEC has done well in terms of preparation. And I think prior to the election period, INEC had engaged more than I have ever noticed. This is engaging with different groups, engaging with men, women, civil society, governments, going from state to state, ensuring that people have an idea of what is expected of them. They have done so in the past, but not in this magnitude, and I actually want to appreciate them for that. During the primaries, I know that the primaries is usually the baby of the political parties, but I also see that INEC did observe, and they also did not just take it as one of those things that could happen, but as a serious affair. And that also is something we should commend them for. And the fact that they also realized that the civil society is very key to elections across the world. They, in Nigeria, have tried as much as possible to get civil society involved, to get them aware. They even they went to the extent of calling women groups in different locations, in different zones, to get them to understand what is coming and how much of their own intervention will be required, or efforts will be required to ensure that there is a peaceful election. So I think I'll want to give a pass mark to INEC for the preparation so far. I do hope that for the election proper, they will go with the same dexterity and ensure that all materials are in the most remote parts of this country, and that materials will get to the riverine areas, that materials will get to the hard-to-reach areas. We in the civil society sector, we know that there are so many hard-to-reach areas in Nigeria. And we also know that some of those areas could be neglected. We know that most of the areas, some of them have schools, some of them, and the school network is one thing that I know that INEC might have looked at, that any community where there is a school. But there are also so many communities that need schools but do not have. So how are they going to engage with those communities? How do they get there? So I expect that by now they should have worked out how to get to the very, very remote areas, how to ensure that citizens in all those areas have access to polling booths where they can exercise their rights as Nigerians.
Oh, excellent. So let's talk women now. The election, presidential election is just a few days away, and also the National Assembly. How, in your opinion, how is it, the participation of women? How would you rate it?
Rating it is almost at zero level in terms of being, I mean, part of those to be elected.
Mm-hmm.
We are all very sad. We cannot shy away from the fact that women have actually been relegated to the background. The political parties have not been fair. They haven't been fair to women. If not for the fact that most of us women understand the fact that we cannot shy away from actually now going out there to perhaps look for those men that are interested in the cause of women and participate in the election based on that. It would have been a good time to actually call for a boycott, of the election, because women have not been given adequate space. They've been pushed out of the platform. I would not say that many women did not come out, at primaries level in all the political parties. We had quite a few women who were interested in almost all the positions, that were available. But they were pushed out because of money politics, because of patriarchy, in a country that prides itself as the giant of Africa. You go to other countries in Africa, you see that women are given opportunities. Constitutionally, they are given the space. That, okay, X percentage of women must hold this position or must be given this space. Nigeria, that is meant to lead, does not have that kind of opportunity for Nigerian women. It's so sad. It's so sad that it is at this time that we are going to have lesser number of women in parliament. A time when we can pride ourselves of quite a number of women that are highly educated, very much exposed, who can lead processes, who even lead homes, and have led these processes effectively, and yet they are not given opportunity to rule. They are not given opportunity to talk on behalf of their kind. No man can advocate or speak for any woman. Women are the only ones that know where it bites.
So what would you attribute this to? Should we be handed the opportunity to participate, or to be in national development, to govern? What would you attribute this development, the fact that the numbers are going down?
Yeah, I think it's very sad that the governance structure in the system it's still a challenge, because one would have expected that the level of education of Nigerian men would give them the leeway to begin to think that, we should also allow our women to be part of this whole process. They should see, and they should know that there are women that can lead. There are women that can push things through, for our various communities. They should know. And they should actually, in an educated manner, make decisions that, we can't do it alone. It is only good when men and women are allowed to, or when men and women have the space, to do things properly. The way Nigeria is going, if we do not allow women to actually come on board, it means that we cannot grow properly. We need to grow properly. Any nation that you see that is doing very well, if you look at their structure, you see that they have a good number of women also working with them. We have a lot of crisis within our system. Women should be on the table. We have an economic crisis. Women should be on the table. Who manages money at home? It's the woman. We might think it's trivial, but that's not the truth. It's the woman. When if you see any home that is well managed, the woman has a strong input to the development of that home, and that's what we want to take to the national and state management. Let women be there. Let them be at the table. Let them talk. Let them show their skills. And we have women. We have women that are skilled in all areas in this country. So why?
Okay. During the campaigns, and of course after the primaries, and then the campaign started for the presidential election, we're happy to see a number of women come up, particularly Obi Ezekwesili. A lot of us were happy. She's vocal, she's intelligent, she looks strong, and then towards the end, she pulled out. Would you say these are some of the reasons?
Well, her pulling out, I would also blame her. Because money politics is what is going on in this country. You see a lot of, even in the rural communities, people are asking, what have you brought? Even when civil society go to do, when we go to the different communities to enlighten people about things that will be good for themselves, the first thing they will be asking for, which is actually strange, but I think it's politics in this country that had brought that on board. When people are asking you, what did you bring for us? So there's nothing. We thought we were politicians, and you're asking for that from women politicians. How much do we have? How much of economic power do women have? To respond to that kind of request. I think the polity should also begin to rethink and look inward again about what we knew as our culture. When you see people doing well, you don't meet them because of the money they have, but because of the integrity that they have. We've lost it somehow, and it will take some years, I think, for us to go back to the rights.
Okay. And
To the
I
right
see
source.
that I was looking at some things about your work. I see that there's a difference between you're not just calling for participation, women participation in politics and governance. You're particularly calling for active participation of
Oh
women.
yes,
So what
yes.
is the difference between women participation and women and the active? I mean, participation and active participation.
Well, participation all means we are all talking about it. There is some kind of space. We create space for ourselves to discuss the issue. Sometimes, perhaps, if we are lucky to have the media on our side, they listen to us also and beam it, and then go in and vote, and perhaps canvass for those who want to contest. But the active participation that we are looking at is for us to be out there in the political arena as politicians, as active politicians, not the clapping ones, not those who will be kept to take care of the welfare of the politicians. No, we want to be leaders of political parties. We want women to actually become, not just card carriers of any political party, but to be in the national working committee of the parties, the leadership of the party. We do not want a situation where, and I think that is what we'll be looking at for 2023, we are going to be asking that political parties put at least 3 women on their national planning committee or on their leadership platform. We do not want just women leader. It is good for us to have women leader, yes, within a political party, but apart from women leader, there are other positions. And when we have 3 women sitting with the others, with the men at that level, then it will be possible for us to begin to get political parties to know that there are women that need to be encouraged and supported. Women that need to be encouraged and supported for political party positions. If we don't do that, we can get nowhere. I think this whole problem we are having is in the hands of political parties, and it has to stop.
Okay, we'll come to that because I see that you're doing some work with the political parties. But talking about active participation, women being at that level of decision making, of discourse, how would that affect their homes? Because a lot of these women are married with children, and then we also know that a lot of the political meetings take place in the wee hours, late at night. Wouldn't that affect the balance, family, and all of that?
Most women in leadership positions have um, the capacity to manage both the home front and also their official work. Most women, they have the capacity. Because what brought you to that level in the first instance is education, exposure, linkages that you make here and there. And then, of course, most women, I would say 90% of women, if not more, of women that are in leadership positions have the support of their spouses. They have the support of their spouses, they have the support of their families. Most women don't go into anything without discussing it with their spouses, their children, and their extended family. So that's not an issue. It's not an issue at all. It's not a reason for any political party to say that women shouldn't be there. There are some women that go actually to some of the political party meetings with their spouses. These are all management issues. Many women know what to do when it comes to that level. So they should be given the opportunity. You shouldn't think for me. You shouldn't say, if you call Felicia to this, she probably wouldn't be able to do that. Leave that to me. And then
and some say women are apolitical. They are not, most times they prefer to just be home.
The thing is, no. I don't believe that. It's the kind of talk that people want to give to discourage women from doing what they should do. Women just need to have adequate information, the kind of exposure that is required, education. If you have all of that, then they can move.
Okay, I see that part of the work you do is to train officials of political parties to have a good knowledge of gender dynamics. And I underlined those two words, gender dynamics, because I want you to explain to us.
Yes, what we've been discussing now is gender dynamics. How it all plays, how men and women can relate, to ensure that they progress properly. Anyway, so in most political parties, we had the privilege of training some political party officials, and what we realized was that a lot of them do not even think that way. They don't have that understanding that you have to look at it, you have to know how to relate with both men and women, even in the political party offices, and also in thinking through what women and men should do. And then we also had the privilege of training party officials, those who work with political parties, those who work with politicians. We realized that many of them did not have, they didn't understand that there is some kind of dynamics that plays, when men and women come out to contest. When women come to their party offices with their forms, when women come to party offices to ask for questions, to ask questions about things happening, how you should relate with them. Women, yes, they could be emotional, but then you should give them the information that they need. If a party official, for example, in most of the parties where we have trained officials, we know that many of them gave us undertaking that we will change our attitude. We will know how we relate with our party officials when they come, and we'll know the kind of assistance we can give to both men and women. Those are the dynamics that we are talking about. There are things that play out, and there are things that either discourage or encourage politicians, not even women alone. So if a politician comes into an office and he sees that the attitude is that of this one, he doesn't even have anything to give any one of us, why should we give him this kind of information? That's not a good attitude. But if you deal with everybody the same way, then It can be taken. So we are saying that the relationship or the opportunities that you give, to both men and women at party level should be same. You shouldn't prefer one to the other. But we also know that that could happen in a situation where you have been brought up not to talk, or you have been brought up to see a woman as, this one, she should be at home. What is she doing here? She should. There are certain kind of professions she should just stay with.
You should be a teacher.
Who tells her that she can help us? Who tells her that, so those kind of attitude. We need to, acculturize our people, both men and women, to begin to think that, if my mother could take care of all of us and could manage us and know how to relate with daddy on each and every one of us, then it means that if she has that kind of position in the public sphere, she will be able to manage it effectively. But we cannot think like that, except if we are exposed to the fact that these new thoughts could actually help the development of our nation. And that's what we did. And
it's working.
Yes.
Would that be different from this? I just want to see if it's a different thing. Strengthening capacities of political parties to develop and reform policies and procedures to promote women participation. Develop reform policies and reform the procedures.
They have to do that. They have to develop their policies. Some of them do have different kinds of manifesto, but if you read through the manifesto of political party A, B, C, and D, they are all almost the same. And then if you look at them closely, you begin to see what kind of policies do they have. Again, is there any one of them that has a gender policy that says, let's look at Nigerian women and men in depth? Let's look at the way the policies we make or the decisions we make will affect boys and girls. Let's look at, so those are the things you're talking about. How will the policy of Party A affect men and women in Nigeria? How will Party B policy affect boys and girls in Nigeria? How will it affect people with disability? How will it affect women? How will it affect, they need to look at it closely. And that's why their party structure, their party dynamics, they need to be more dynamic, And I believe that most of them have researchers. They have experts that can actually look at those things. But, if you are in leadership, you need to also understand that there are certain things you cannot just sweep under the carpet. And that's the issue of gender. They cannot sweep it under the carpet. They cannot, every decision that is taken, particularly when at global level, people are thinking like that. Nigeria should even think far ahead. So the thoughts of how will this affect A and B? How will it affect Christians as well as Muslims? How will it affect, so you look at the kind of people you have within the system, and you also look at how you relate with these people, how your policies can affect these people. We know that we have a large number of poor people, in this country, which shouldn't be. So, if any political party is on board, it should be thinking of the poor. How can we bring them out of poverty in an oil-rich country? How can we bring them out of poverty in a land that is so rich in terms of the kind of soil that we have and the kind of agricultural business that we could go into? How will this affect? So whatever decision you are making at party level, because you are expecting that your political party will lead at some point or the other. So if your party is going to lead, how are we going to engage with the different groups in the society? How are we going to engage, how are we going to get more people to stay alive enough to enjoy the land? How will this health sector be? How will the education sector be? So when you are thinking of even all the various sectors in the economy, then the people that will enjoy that sector or that will interact with those sectors are men and women. So the issue of gender, we cannot run away from it. When people hear gender, they say, these women, they have come again. No. If men are saying that these women have come again, it means they are doing a disservice to even themselves. Because it's not just a matter of women, it's a matter of how things affect men and women, how the roles of men and women within our country, can be well noted, and also can contribute effectively to the development of our country. Look at our boys and girls. They should be able to compete with boys and girls across the world. We must look at it. So that's the dynamics that we want. That's the dynamism that we want political parties to bring into their system. They shouldn't just think of, when I get there, I become very rich, and when I get there, I will, because many of them, many politicians, many, think of themselves and their families, their immediate families first, before you think of the larger, only very few of them will perhaps look at it from a very holistic point of view. So if we are looking at, if they want to rule Nigeria, and they want to rule it effectively, they must think of Nigeria as an entity. When you become a leader, you know that you are going to still help your family, make sure your family is sane enough, to represent you even in public. But however, you are going to be leader of all. So, and for you to be leader of all, you must think of women, you must think of men, you must think of children, you must think of children, both boys and girls. You must not push the girls backwards, and you must give them the opportunity to live their full potential. If you want a country that will be good again, perhaps in the future, if both boys and girls are not given adequate opportunities, and space to also grow well, then we are in trouble.
Okay, going back to the Obi Ezekwesili, when she was still in the race, a lot of people believed her, admired her, her strength, her intelligence, and both male and female, both men and women, um, because we see sometimes, I think a lot of the time, women politicians, and they tend to plead with other women, support women politicians now, support women politicians, and people say, oh, women are their own worst enemies. Do we have the numbers as women? And again, maybe two questions. How has it been? You are on the field, you do this. How do women receive other women in vying for offices, political offices, and other offices? And that's one. Two, do we have the numbers to make a difference?
Oh yes, we do have the number to make a difference. We have the numbers. We have the numbers. We are, by the population council analysis and by NBS, the number of Nigerian women, they say it's 49 points, whatever.
Approximately 50%.
Approximately 50%.
Okay.
I believe it's more than that. I believe it's more than that. That we are even more than the given analysis. However, let us even work with that. Working with that, we have the numbers. If 50% of the population of this country decide not to do anything in this country, the country can't be. And Nigerian women are 50%. They are about 50% of this country. And we have the numbers. We have the numbers, and those numbers can be used. And that is why a lot of politicians tend to look at women as, if you want to make your rally beautiful, they look for women all over, pull market women, they pull women from different groups, to come in and be part of your campaign or part of your rally. If women were not important, people won't go looking for them to be part of their rallies or to be part of their campaign. But however, I do not. I would say that people like Obi Ezekwesili would have been supported by women, and I do not also believe the idea that women are their own enemies. No. Women want to help. They want to support if they know. The issue is knowledge. And then apart from knowledge, this whole idea of patriarchy is a cultural thing. most women have been acculturated to believe in certain ways. To take them off it needs a lot of sensitization, and that should also be a national sensitization process, which an office such as the National Orientation Agency should be able to do, to get women to begin to think that, to know that they are important. Most of us grew up being told that don't talk. Don't you know you are a woman? You should comport yourself. You shouldn't talk in public. You shouldn't do that. You know, that's what most girls got growing up. So as they grow up, as they get into education, they see that if you don't assert yourself, you may not get to where you want to get to. If you don't work hard as a student, you may not be able to compete effectively. If you don't, so these educational questions that should run in the minds of an average student counters this socialization you got from the home that says, don't you know you should be in the kitchen? Don't you know you shouldn't even be here? People are talking, they are making important decisions, and you are seated in their midst. Live there. Those are things that had actually affected women as we go along. But things, there are platforms that have that seem to have changed those kind of dynamics. So, but more women do not know. We still have a large number of uneducated public. Many of them do not have access to some of this information. And when a woman, even in their midst, stands up to lead or to be their scribe, they say, no, if you go to any of the women groups, women meetings, when they're having meetings, all these town hall meetings or town meetings that you see, go to some of their meetings and check out who their secretary is. It's a man. Because they feel that a woman cannot write the minutes of the meeting. Whereas in their midst they have teachers. I'm talking of the very, very rural, and even those who are in urban settings, who are groups of women from X community living in Abuja or living in Lagos. When they are having their meetings, they will have a man to help them write their. And then if we flip it up again to the economic side, those who collect their osusu, if you go to the marketplace and check who collects the osusu of the women, of people in the market, there is men. And then you go to the banking data, they say that we don't have adequate number of women, servicing our banking operation. Why? Because the women have literally put all their money, their osusu money, into one purse, managed by a man. So the record does not show that women have account, or that so because the woman is not there to lead that process, so all that has to stop. Those kind of dynamics needs to stop. There are women that have the capacity to manage those processes, and they should do that.
I saw some. I was reading something a few days ago. I guess last week, there was a women empowerment program going on somewhere, and then the women were asked to bring their bank accounts so they could pay. They could pay the money into their bank accounts for their business, their small scale businesses. And the commentator said that a lot of the women gave either their husband's bank accounts or their son's bank accounts, and but he didn't believe that these women did not have their own bank accounts, even if it was savings account. It doesn't take so much to, just like you said. So probably the women think if I have to, if anything money, my husband must be in charge, even though it's her own business. But does it make you happy that some of the states, like in the southwest, we have women deputy governors,
Oh, sure.
and now with a number of the presidential aspirants, candidates from their different parties, they have female women vice presidential candidates. Does that make you happy? I mean, at that level.
Yes, I am. I'm happy that women are coming up at that level, and that they actually were able to scale through the primaries to get to the level, to that playing field where they can actually test their popularity out there in the public. it's a good thing. I I like it. I would continue to encourage it, because you have to start from somewhere. When you're talking about your experience and you begin to refer to the fact that, I was the governorship candidate in Party A, I was the deputy governorship candidate in Party Y, and you know, I went to test my popularity, and it was good. So there is something to show that we are starting from somewhere, and that there could be a possibility for this kind of personality in the future. If you look at all our politicians, most of our politicians, they started from one political party to the other. They moved, until they got to a place where they felt that, okay, I'm very comfortable here. I can now, move forward. I can now vie for maybe this kind of position. So it's good that we have women at that level. It's, however, sad that everybody, if you ask Nigerians, they're calling two main political parties, but the other political parties, and many of them have actually pulled themselves to an extent, and it's expected that the public would also begin to have more information about, particularly about the women that have come out, and how and watch how they are going to fare. I'm actually keen on watching the way our women are going to fare this period, the way they are going to, the kind of popularity that we'll see with all our women that are contesting. So I think it's a good thing that we have quite a few of them
out there.
Yeah.
And what more, on a personal level, on an individual level, what more can women do, or what more should women do? Because we see challenges that they face. Those that are outspoken, we see Aisha Al Hassan, Mama, or popularly known as Mama Taraba, detailing her challenges from one party to the other, how she had to move her equipment, how they did this to her, they did that to her. But on a very individual level, you have interacted with different women at different levels and encouraging them to come out, encouraging other people to support them. But what can the individual woman, what would you say to me, for instance, to do to prop myself up there?
I think the easiest way for women would be getting the people. When I say the people, I mean people in rural communities, people that are very lowly, to get them to understand you, to get them to know you, to get them. So it's about grassroots politics, and that's why I still believe in working on the conscience of the people when it comes to the role of women and the role of men. If women at rural community level see you as a woman again, she's supposed to be supporting her husband. She's not supposed to be talking. She should cook. She should bring food in. She should do this. She should do everything, but she shouldn't speak and she shouldn't lead. So that is something that needs to be wiped out of the mindset of the average Nigerian woman, and we can do it. We can do it. Civil society will have to wake up to that. The government also will have to wake up to that. Because if we want our country to move forward, the indices that the world will be looking at is how are your women faring. That is it. When you see countries across the world that are doing very well, when you look at their gender indices, you see that they have more women, working, more women contributing to the development of their country. What are we doing with our? Are we allowing all our children, all our women to be loafers? Are we saying that they shouldn't matter? Are we saying that? So those are questions that we need to ask ourselves, and we need to answer, and we need to look for practical solutions to.
Okay, on a final note, I would want you to just speak to, if you have any particular message, like a parting shot, talk to Nigerians about the 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 issues that are burning. I believe there's something you want to put out.
Well, I would actually like our women to come out. We are women of voting age, to come out and vote massively for their conscience. They should vote for people they believe who represent their interest, who represent the interest of their children and of their families. And I have a message also for our government, particularly the National Orientation Agency. There is a lot of work to do in conscientizing the minds of people. And that work falls on the laps of the National Orientation Agency. Other groups will do something, but the agency should be independent enough to ensure that both men and women within our system have access to the information that will help them live a good life and be good Nigerians. But for the election, please, I would urge everyone of voting age to go out there and vote their conscience, vote properly, so that the right leaders will come on board.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you for being here, for sharing your time with us. I have been speaking with Mrs. Felicia Iyore Onibon. She is President, Chief Executive Officer of Change Managers International Network. It has been an enlightening time with you. The program continues, the morning call continues. Next is press review with Jeremiah Omahi, Anete Patrick, and after that, we will continue. Stay tuned.
Nah sleep, I won't sleep with that do. I beg you, nothing do me. What's happening on the 16th, please? Now waiting concern me, concern vote. Now when that won't start to count. Oh please, don't come to me with that crime. Are you for real? You bet I am. Well, I should have seen Miss me, I could just stay with my baba. I smuggle and shine. Yeah, seven now, I said I go. Are you kidding me? Oh no, sister.
See. I can stand the faces of those crooked politicians.
Don't say that.
I don't even like any one of them.
Stop! Oh my